It's a live studio audience. Guys, it's cold, but I promised you we were going to try out this new bow. I don't know what it's called, Happy Bow or something like this. You notice I don't talk about actual brand names.
Check this out. I paid 60 bucks. 60 bucks delivered for all of that.
But that's because there's usually one manufacturer that's making things and they're advertising under 20 different brand names to see who likes what. It still ends up being the same bow. This is the $60 bow that we unboxed yesterday. And today we're actually giving it a try. And is there a little bit of movement in the bow? Yeah, I can see it. If I bend it up like this a little bit, you're gonna see there's a tiny little bit of curve here. The question is it good enough to shoot, to learn how to do archery? We're gonna use a superior shooting method, this one that you've been hearing about, to see what we can do with this bow. It's a 5-step method. Step 1, you're going to choose a gap between the nocking point of the arrow and the drawing point of your index finger. What does that gap do? When you take your index finger and put it under your chin, that gap determines the elevation of the arrow. The smaller you make the gap, the more the arrow points up in the air, the farther it goes. When you make that gap bigger, the more the arrow points down, the shorter it's actually going to go. So that gap sets the elevation, sets the range on the arrow, the distance. Step 2, you're going to draw back an anchor under your chin, not along your cheek. Step 3, you're going to look down the left edge of this bowstring like a rear sight. Step 4, you're going to put the tip of your arrow, this is my finger, you're going to put it right smack on the target. Not above, not below, not to the right, not to the left. Straight on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, you're going to make a very small motion release. You're going to pretend you're a little mechanical release and make as small a motion as possible. Those 5 steps, and let's see how we do on this target. I set this target at 20 meters. I made sure that this bow pulls out to around 40 pounds. A good distance, a good gap, a good elevation. For this kind of an arrow, a good starting point is 3 fingers. 3 fingers from the nocking point of the arrow up here down to the bottom point where my drawing finger is. Step 2, we're going to draw back and anchor under our chin. Step 3, we're going to look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's my rear sight. Step 4, I'm going to put the tip of the arrow right smack on the target. That's my front sight. Step 5, small motion release. Not bad. Arrow seemed to go up a little bit. I need to find out why. Chances are it's because these are incredibly heavy tips compared to what I'm shooting. What am I going to do? I'm going to adjust that gap ever so slightly, not to be 3 fingers, but to be 2.5. And we're going to try again. God, I'm already cold. Step 1, we choose the gap. 1, 2.5 fingers. Step 2, draw back and anchor under our chin. Step 3, look down the left side of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Small motion release. It's crawling its way up. The back of the arrow is kicking up a little bit. That's called porpoising. It's a sign that I'm knocking a little too high. I'm going to adjust this knocking point down ever so slightly. You can watch my videos for how to make that adjustment, how to make an adjustable knocking point. Let's try again. So far, we're off to a good, we're doing pretty good. The arrow is shooting straight down. The arrow is shooting straight down the center of the bag. It's not veering to the left, it's not veering to the right. And I can't feel my fingers. Jeez. Now we're going to try 2 fingers. Step 1, choose your gap. 2 fingers for this bow for a 20-meter shot, for an elevation that gives me a 20-meter shot. Step 2, Draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left side of the bowstring. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. Step 5, step 5, step 5, step 5, step 5. Bullseye. This bow's shooting actually pretty nice. I'm not sticking around anymore. The answer to the question, can you buy a $60 bow and actually shoot really well with it? Can you get started in archery? You just saw the answer to that question. We took 3 shots in order to prove that we could come up with a gap that would give us the ability to hit a bullseye. Let's see if it really works. Let's do it a second time. Down from the knocking point. Step 2, draw back and anchor under our chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring, that's your rear sight. 4, tip of the arrow on the center of the target, that's your front sight. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Small motion release. That's 2 out of 3 that are not in the gold. One's in the gold, one's in the red at 20 meters, and 20 meters is a competition distance. Let's put one more in. Step 1, choose your gap. That determines the elevation for a 20-meter shot. 2 fingers for this bow, this arrow. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. 4, tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Small motion release. I shot 4 times. 1 was a stray. My fingers are cold. 3 of them were in the gold or in the red at 20 meters, at 18 meters. Is that enough to be able to compete? Yes, for 60 bucks. You guys got a chance to see this particular bow that you paid $60 for the whole kit, and you got a dozen arrows. Even though they're curvy, those arrows actually shot well enough to hit it into the yellow or the red on the bag at 20 meters, and 18 meters is a competition distance. This is enough for you to go and compete, provided you use a superior shooting method, not an inferior one. The superior shooting method overcomes a lot of the deficiencies that might exist in what you think of as a mediocre entry-level bow. But guys, you just saw it for yourself. Mediocre arrows, theoretically, mediocre bow, theoretically, is still doing well when it comes to actually shooting. How do you explain that? Maybe it's not always about the equipment. Maybe it's about the superior shooting method. Hope you guys enjoyed this particular outing. I gotta go get my hands warmed up. This is Mark Vogt with VOGTLAND Outdoors. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It doesn't hurt you, it sure helps me, and we'll see you out there. Thanks, bye. Cut! Dave, I can't feel my fingers.